Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do my July 2021 stats. So, anyway, this was actually a really great month for me. I read a lot of books, and I also read a lot of pages. It was actually my highest page count for a month in quite a while. July just seems to be one of my good months to read. Not sure why, but this one was a real good one. So I'm just going to go through my trusty little list here on my reading stats. And let's get to it. So how many books did I finish in the month of July? I finished 17 things. 9 were physical, 3 were ebooks, and 5 were rereads. But of the rereads, 2 of them were audio. So I did have some audio, but they were both on my reread. I just mark it in that section. So, but overall, that's still pretty good. I had a higher rereading month. Because again, Jane Austen, I read 2 of her novels, and I read another book and a couple other books. So it's just, and Nalini's thing was in there too. So I did a lot of reading. Anyway, for graphic novels and manga, I read 1 graphic novel and 4 manga. So that's pretty good. I had no DNFs, which is unusual. But I also have several books that are still on the go from other months that I just haven't got to yet. So, you know, I just didn't decide to DNF anything in this month. So that's unusual. How many books were on my TBR this month? I had put down 3 books. 2 books were for the Kate Daniels series that I'm reading with Tia and all the books. So I put those 2 on my list, and then I also put one of my BookTube Spin books. BookTube Spin is done by Rick McNeil, and it was my pick. It was the 3rd round pick 1. That was a Jane Austen contemporary, so I put her on that. So anyway, so I read those 3 books that were the only, everything else was just whatever I wanted, so I did pretty good on that one. How many of the physical books that I read were from the new to me books were from my personal library or from the public library? Only 4 of the 9 physical books that I read that were new to me came from my shelves. 5 of them came from the library. Yeah, I was a heavy library month, I have to say. I read a lot of books from the library. So, mostly because I was into several series or new books from, that Jane Austen inspired kind of thing. So, oh well, I didn't do so hot on that one. I had no books crossing over from July into August, except for about 4 books that are coming from June that I hadn't finished. So I didn't count those, so I'm saying it's 0 because I finished 2 of the books on July 30th, and then the 31st I didn't read anything really. I read a couple pages, but nothing major, so I didn't count it as anything crossing over. I usually don't end the month like that. Usually I have something crossing it, but this time I did not. How many books did I buy this month? I bought 20. Some of that was still part of my birthday money, so the cost per book was only $4.20, so that's still pretty low. But again, some of those were still birthday gifts for money I got. How many of those have I read? I've read 7. 6 of them were new Jane Austen novels that I got new copies to replace to have new nicer copies. And then I had a little Jane Austen book of quotes and things. I did read that, but I didn't count that as a read book because I didn't mark that on Goodreads. Anyway, but I've read 7 of the 20. So 13 are books that are new on my shelf that I haven't read yet. How many pages did I read this month? Is 4,913 pages. This is, again, best month I've had this year so far. Pretty good. Average pages per day was 158.5 pages per day. So anytime I'm over 100, I'm excited. 150, that is great. I made it 158.5. I think that's really good for me. And then the pages per book on average was 296 pages. So it's still, my average is pretty low. I tend to read a lot of short and medium-sized books. I really want to read my big books, but I'm just not taking the time to do that. So that's definitely something I'll be looking at going into next year, because this is the first time I've been looking at my average page count per book and seeing where that is. But I do have a tendency to read a lot of short books of novellas and then read a lot of medium-sized books. So I might need to work on that next year. This was a really weird month because it was Jane Austen July. I didn't read one male author except for the part of the husband and wife team of Alona Andrews. So, because again, I read 2 books from them, or 2 things, a book and a novella, and then I read 15 books that were written by women. So that's not normal. I usually am not quite that far out, but that kind of was. But it was Jane Austen July, so there's a reason for that. I didn't read any translated works in July because again I was reading mostly Jane Austen July stuff, and then but two of the mangas I read was translated, but again they're not counted in my book numbers. But just saying, I did read something translated. It was just only manga. I only read one POC author, so that wasn't quite so good. Again, that was Nilingi Singh because again one of her new books came out, so I read that. Okay, my star ratings. My star ratings this year are just so much lower than they have been. So I only had 1 5-star read. I had 5 4-star reads. I had 4 3-star reads, and I had 2 2-star reads. So it's actually one of the lowest rated months. I keep forgetting to do the one where I average it out, so I have to start doing that. But definitely not a high average month for me on this one, I can tell. Because usually I don't have that many 2 stars, and I had 2 of them. Anyway, so the genres that I read 3 classics, 5 historical fictions, 4 paranormal romances, 2 urban fantasies, 1 contemporary, 1 fantasy, and 1 general nonfiction. So again, I read mostly historical fiction because they are mostly Jane Austen retellings. And one was a whole trilogy. So, you know, I think I read a lot of that. My favorite book of the month, let's get it up here. Here it is. Where is it? My favorite book of the month, of course, was the Nilingi Singh, the book 20 in the Side Changeling series, Last Guard. So again, I read this. I read several of the books previous to this book as a warm-up to it. So that was where some of my rereads came in. Again, this is a paranormal romance with humans and shifters and people with psychic abilities all vying for power. And again, it's a paranormal romance series, so every book has a new couple. Mostly, and it just builds, the story builds. Do not start on 20. You will not understand. But I love this couple, and this was my only 5-star read for July. My least favorite book, or most disappointing, and I would put this more in the most disappointing, was the Heiress, The Revelations of Anne de Berg by Molly Greenlee. So I did not enjoy this book. I only liked the beginning and parts of sprinkled into the end, but not the very, very end, because the last chapter, forgot that. I didn't like that at all. Really, actually, I hated that last chapter. It was like, that's ridiculous. But she made different choices on how Anne de Berg, again, from Pride and Prejudice, how her life was, and how, some ways it could have been, or why she was like how she was, that is portrayed in the book. And then again she expands it and goes farther into her future and what happens at a certain point. And I think some of it was really good. It just, I don't know, it just did not call to me. It did not draw me in. It actually took me several weeks to read this book. It was just so hard. I'm dying here with thirst, sorry. But I really was just disappointed in the way it went. It just was not a retelling for me. I think other people will like it. Oops, sorry. My phones all go off, sorry. I think other people will like this if they're, I don't know, if they buy into it more than I did, and I just did not. So it was not my favorite book. It was, it did not get a very high score. It was one of my 2-star reads. Okay, so let's go through my book journal real quick. So again, I bought exactly the same amount of books as I did in June. I was trying not to, but then I bought those Jane Austen novels at the end of the month, so it made my number go higher. I was doing pretty good until then. But I am trying to keep it lower than the couple big outrageous months, so we'll see. I'm not doing great. So my pixel, I don't know, this is not showing up really well. So again, if you can see, it's a really high month because there's a lot of the blues and purples and pinks. Those are like the middle to high numbers for me. Green is the is where I want to be mostly all the time. So, and then again, the red. There's a couple red because I had a couple low days. But really, I mean, it really is mostly the purples and blues, and then some greens and the pinks. And those are, again, those are the higher numbers. So those are, I had really high number days. I said I read the most this month than I have in a really long time. I am creeping up on my, again, my goal, my Goodreads goal was already met, but as I said, I was over almost 70 for the year at the end of July. So my shelves are expanding for books on my shelves that I've read, and well, in my collection. So again, I got quite a few physical, but I did have several ebooks in July, which was good for me. I'm not very good at reading my ebooks. And again, I added quite a few physicals here from the library because this is my library shelf, because I read 5 of them from the library this month. So that one's going. On my series tracker, the only thing I added, just so you guys can see, is I made, this is the Kate Daniels series, the main series, and then I've made it for the novellas, all the in-between books. I should have put maybe, well, I know, I put novellas. Not all of them are going to be novellas. There's going to be a couple of books in there too, but, well, whatever. Anyway, so I got the first one of that one done in book 4. So that's going. And then I've added the Fitzwilliam Darcy Gentleman series because I read all 3 of those. So those are the only series books I read in July. So that is good. Or not, could be better, but you know, I was reading Jane Austen July stuff. And then here is my reading for July. You can see I had really high numbers and very consistent high numbers. There's only a few smaller. And again, the very end of the month, I only read like 6 pages on Saturday at the end of the month. But every other day is like, I read quite a bit. There's a lot of reading in here. So it was a high reading month for me. And so I think I did really well. So that is all my stats. How did you guys do in July? Did you have a good reading month? As I said, it was my best so far this year. What was your favorite book? What was your least favorite book? Let me know. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.